Alright, everyone, welcome back, and this time we're going to go further into mech building. Now, as you all know, that there is a trinity. Let's say, that's not the mecha. There we go. There is a trinity of weapon systems. There's ballistics, there's energy, there's missile. They all have their benefits and weaknesses and all that fun stuff. Now, the thing that a lot of people either understand or soon come to realize is that some weapon systems work together. Some weapon systems are more challenging. Like missiles and ballistics. They run quite well together. Why? Because you're already leading your target, and, well, with missiles and ballistics, if you're leading, your shots are most likely going to land on the mech relatively in the same component. Now, of course, there's the issues of spread and location of where the hardpoint is on a mech. That'll come into more advanced build theory. But for now, we're just talking about basic stuff. Let's see. Some ballistics can group up with some energy, like the Gauss rifles and lasers, more particularly the longer range lasers. Or even like you do heavy Gauss rifle with medium lasers. That's always a fine addition. You can do some missiles with lasers, and mainly because, well, they have like a minimum range and lasers don't. That's different from PPCs. And then you can have some PPCs interchangeable with some lasers, like where are you, Grasshopper? Where are you? There you are. Like this, I have two minimum range weapons. And then we got 5 weapons that don't have a minimum range, but they're enough to shoot at things that are now within the range of the lasers and in the minimum range of the PPCs. So, the backup weapons, pretty much. That's, if you have minimum range weapons, you most likely need a backup weapon. Otherwise, you're going to be shooting at it and doing no damage, and you're just going to cry in a corner. So, let's actually use this. One build theory is when you have minimum range weapons, you have backup weapons. Or you have a big weapon that throws out a lot of heat, and then you just have the other weapons in case either A, those weapons get critted out, or B, those weapons become ineffective and you have a lot of heat. So you rely on the other weapons to do damage while you lose heat, and so on and so forth. A good example would be the Black Widow that I have, where the heavy PPCs generate a lot of heat, but machine guns generate no heat. So if I can fire these weapons all at the same time. Now that machine guns have a range of 200 and on this mech 272 meters, which isn't all that far, but I'm able to fire both at the same time and not worry about these adding more heat. And if I get too hot, I can use these while my heat's going down, and so that I can fire the heavy PPCs again. So you can think like that. Another example of this, where are you? There you are. Is this mech. Got 2 PPCs, minimum range. In AC-10. AC-10 generates little to no heat. 2.75, that's nothing. And the PPCs do generate heat, so that I can fire these. And then if I get too much heat, I can just keep firing the AC-10 and just punishing the enemy. Another form of, let's say, build 3 is taking big weapons, putting them on a mech, and then maybe getting more of those big weapons, like with 2 LB-20s. Doesn't seem like much, but if you hit one component, that's 40 damage into that component. Most mechs are going to feel that. Only the assaults, like the big assaults, the 100-tonners. They might not feel it at first, but if you keep hitting them, in that same component, they're going to start feeling it. Another example would be MRM-40s. 2 MRM-40s. Sure, there's ghost heat, but the tip is that sometimes you can just not care that ghost heat is happening if you have enough heat sinks that eat up that ghost heat. So yeah, basically this build just throws 80 missiles into the enemy's face, laughs, and continues forward as their corpse is burning on the ground and you trample over it. Moving on. You can have weapons that have close to the same range, which would be like the Sun Spider A that I have, where you have a UAC-5 and a UAC-2. UAC-2 has an optimal range of 931 at the moment, while the UAC-5 has a optimal range of, what the hell is that? What's math? 724 meters. So there's a difference of about 200 meters, but 200 meters isn't that much, especially when the drop off is not much. It's like maybe A damage when you get out to 900 meters. But I mean, you can also just fire at the enemy at 720 meters and then just do all the damage you want to the mech. It's entirely up to you on how you want to pilot your mech. Another thing about same weapon ranges is this. AC-20 and SRM-6s. SRM-6s have an optimal range of 305 meters, whereas the AC-20 has a range of 305 meters. Weird how that happens, right? So basically you can fire at 300 meters at an enemy and hopefully your aim is good. Otherwise, oh well. That sounds mean and terrible, but it's really how it is. If you miss, you miss. What else? Also, with the AC-20s and SRMs, is that they also have pretty much the same cooldown. At least SRM-6s, I should specify. Because an AC-20 has a cooldown of about 3.7, 3.65, whereas the cooldown of SRMs is almost 3.2 seconds. It's still pretty good in terms of when they come off of cooldown. It's 0.5 seconds difference. It's not much. What else? Oh, so another source of same range builds is with large lasers and ER mediums. ER mediums have an optimal range of 360. Large lasers have an optimal range of 450. You're hurting things at relatively close range. More for this build, I believe they have the same duration pretty much. 1.1, yeah, they basically have the same duration. So if you hold your fire on another target, you only need to hold it for less than a second, and then you're just dealing a whole bunch of damage to them. Another example, also just 9 medium pulse lasers, would be on the Warhammer that I have, where the range is so close together. Here we have an optimal range of 419 meters, where the ER mediums have a range of 414 meters. Barely, not even 20-meter difference. It's very nice when these weapon systems sync up together. So you can go large pulse and ER mediums. It's fantastic. So just pay attention to the weapon ranges if you want your weapon ranges to sync up. And if they're off by 200 meters, then that's fine. You don't need to sweat about that. Then you have different kinds of mechs that you want to employ. You have your long-range mechs, you have your mid-range mechs, and then you have your brawl mechs. And then you have different weapon systems that can be long-range and can be brawly at the same time, like Gauss weapons. Except for light Gauss, but regular Gauss on both Inner Sphere and Clan, you can pretty much brawl with. Let's see if I can bring up a good example. Here we go. The Madcap one. It has Gauss rifles, it has lasers. The lasers you're not going to be brawling much with, but if an enemy closes in, you can use your Gauss rifles to effectively brawl. And just shoot at the enemy and hope they die. Just say, hey, please, if you can, just run away as I'm dealing damage to you. Don't attack me, please, senpai. For more brawl mechs or mid-range, we got the Madcap B. You got UAC 10s, UAC 5s. Mid-range is about like 700 meters to as low as 500 meters. If not 4 to 350. That's pretty mid-range. Although 350 is cutting it a little close. You have very little range to work with there. An example of another mid-range mech is the Hellbringer, where you got heavy large lasers and ER mediums. We got 500 optimal range, and then for the area meads, and then a damn close of 517 meters, which that stacks up quite nicely. For Brawl, that Roughneck build that I showed you, that's Brawl. The Dual LB20 build that I showed you guys, that's Brawl, because they have a optimal range of 360 meters. But fun fact about LB weapons, you are going to lose a lot of effectiveness past 200 meters because of that spread. And if you close that, I normally like to think of LBX weapons as having only like a 200 meter range, except for LB2s. They, for whatever reason, have a very small spread, so firing them at long distances, like at the actual distance you want them to fire at, is no biggie. Continue firing, spamming those weapons. Enjoy yourselves as the enemy cries as you rip off their armor. I mean, what? Right, we got another setup of lasers and missiles here. We got SRM-6s and small pulse. They mainly just have the same range ish, where it's gonna matter when you're within range. Another thing about SRM weapons, the closer you are to the enemy, the more chance you have missiles going into a component, a single component, which is always nice because 2 damage per missile. You got a lot of missiles, that's like 50 damage going into a component. And then you got the pinpoint of the small lasers, that's just gravy. Moving on before I start salivating, because I love brawling. Another thing is mobility. To create a mech that is mobile, that's more for the lights, some mediums, like the assassin. But mobility for lights is key. Most of the time you want max engine. Innersphere, clan, XL engine all the time, every time. Unless you're in an urban mech, for the love of God, please put an LFE in a urban mech. Moving on. Right, so we got the Flea. That is the fastest moving mech in the game. With mask, it can go up to... It says that the speed right now is 148, but it can go up to speeds of 170 kilometers per hour. That is fast. Locust will come second with like 160 something kph. It's insane. It's just absolutely insane. Yeah, most of the time you're going to be putting small weapons on lights. Like this guy. You got heavy medium lasers and then a bunch of machine guns. He's got 1 ton, a quarter of a ton on these guys. You don't have a lot of weight to work with, so you're going to put the smaller weapons and then boat those on them. That's something I can talk about. The size category of a mech most likely determines what you're going to put on it. I say most likely because, well, you can do funny things. Like on a Piranha, you can put 1 ER PPC on a 20-tonner. It's not exactly the best build in the world, but it's still fun to take out every once in a while. Mediums, you're gonna go into the SRM4 categories, probably still sticking in like the small laser categories, but you can also crank up. When you get to like 55 tonners, you can start stacking some serious firepower. Like here you can put 4 SRM6s and still go fast. You're still going to want some mobility with medium mechs. I mean, with the Huntsman, you really don't have a chance to increase that mobility. They're stuck at an 81 kph. But the battle mechs, you can, depending on what you want to do, can give them some mobility. But for clans, you're more likely to be doing mid-range with the medium mechs because they don't exactly have the armor to survive in a brawl. But you can put them in a brawl. There's certainly some brawl choices out there. I think that's it for mediums. Mediums are just in a weird place. Heavies, now we're getting some serious firepower. We can, like the Champion, I love this thing. You put in 1 big weapon, some pulse lasers, because the theory of this build is you want to shoot away. You want to shoot that AC-20, and then you want to follow it up as the shell is flying towards the enemy. You want to fire pulse lasers at the component that you're aiming at, and just deal a whole bunch of damage in a very short little time and twist away, so that the incoming fire that you're taking is reduced and spread out through your entire mech. You can start putting heavy PPCs on these guys. That's always fun. I love heavy PPCs, despite how hot they are. Alright, big weapons. Big weapons. Or a bunch of small weapons like you guys saw with this guy. We have a lot of weapons. We got 5 medium pulses, and we got 4 SRM4s and an SRM2. That's just a lot of weapons. That's 10 weapons. It's a lot of fun. Or you can just have 2 weapons. Sure, it's 20 damage, 2 ER PPCs, but Then you're also taking advantage of the jump jets on this mech. Basically doing a pop-tarting. I don't forget if I've explained pop-tarting before, but it's a thing. Would recommend if you get a handle of it. Oh. And heavies, you can also, depending on which Intersphere clan side you're on, you can start putting in a lot of damage. Like here, we got an AC-20 and 3 SRM-6s with Artemis. That's just... that hurts. That hurts people. It hurts quite a bit. Or you can just absolutely punish the enemy and go an LB-20, 4 SRM-6s on a mech. But, I mean, your hard points are an issue. Always look at the hard points of a mech. Find out what you want to do with it. Whether you want to go long range or brawl or mid range. If you want the ranges to be close together, or if you don't want them to be, you got to go through an entire process when building a mech. And I'm trying to help. I hope I'm helping by giving you theories on how to think about building a mech. Like there's times where on the Hellfire specifically, you're gonna sacrifice firepower for speed. Like here, I'm going at 101 kph on a heavy. And I have only 6 medium pulse lasers. I mean, 6 medium pulse lasers is still respectable, but we could go higher if we really wanted to, but we don't because we wanted to sacrifice firepower for speed. Whereas on this guy, we decide, oh wait, nope. I've changed my builds around. Oh well. Like this guy, we put more powerful weapons on here. The LB-10 is a later addition. I had an LB-20 on here, probably because I wanted to. I swapped that out for the LB-10 because I wanted the SRM-6 with Artemis over the LB-10 or over the LB-20. But yeah, we're getting into bigger weapons now. And assaults, the big boys, the main attraction, the people that are here to ground and pound. We got long range assaults. We got 6 LB-2s. The medium pulses are for when people want to get cute and get close. Oh well, that's their fault. And then we have get to punishment time. People want to get close. People want to be mid-range. Well, we got 4 LB-10s to go into their face, flying at fantastic speeds, doing a bunch of damage in a matter of 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds, I'm shooting 40 damage into your face. That's always fun. Now, a lot of these builds that I'm showing you, you're only able to do on the bigger mechs because, well, as I explained in the last video, everything has a weight to it, and well, the tonnage of the mech is limiting, unfortunately. If you want to get really fun, you can just spam a whole bunch of missiles. Just fly 110 missiles at an enemy's face. All at the same range, all pretty much with the same refresh rate or cooldown. It's just absolute fun. You can get weird a little bit by having consistent damage with LB-10s and then burst damage with the UAC-10s. You can actually do this on other builds, just smaller forms. Like you can go UAC-2s and LB-2s on a mech, and just a form of burst damage. And then when they jam up, it's a matter of when, not if. When they jam up, you have weapons that are still continuously firing, so you're not entirely helpless, waiting for your weapons to come back online. You can do builds that just absolutely punish an enemy, like this guy. 2 LB-20s, 4 SRM-6s. That is a 88 alpha going at the enemy's face. that, as you can see, will put this guy below 2/3 health, below 3/4 health in just one go. And then it's going to come back in 3.76 seconds. Run. If you see this mech, run. Or kill it quickly. You can do some assaults where you're just in the back shooting with your lasers or your Gauss, just hoping to take out components. Here's another example of minimum range. This mech absolutely should not work in any way, shape, or form, yet it does because I don't know why. We got LRM-10s, 4 of them. They got a minimum range. But then we got AC-2s. They don't have a minimum range. They still have the same effective range as LRMs. So if I'm looking at something, I can LRM it. And I'm going to continue shooting it with the AC-2s. So yeah. There's that. Pelt them from above and from their face. And then if a mech ever gets in your minimum range, well, you just have the AC-2s to shoot them away. It's a fantastic theory mech. When it doesn't work, it doesn't work in very, very flammable gas. It just goes into flames, is what I'm trying to say. I believe that is it for the basic theories that I've talked about. So as a recap, we have same weapons with the same cooldown. We have, as one theory, we have weapons with the same, if not close-ish range for the second theory. Then we have long-range theory, which is your snipers. And then you have mid-range, which is, well, people not at sniping ranges, just trading with the enemy. And then you have brawl, which is, we're getting rough and tough. We're gonna try and fire specific bolts on an enemy mech, depending on how close you get, and just slamming it out. Absolutely slamming it out. That will pretty much do it for this video. So, like, comment, subscribe if you find this entertaining, and comment if you think I missed anything or should explain something in more detail. I'm more going to start making videos about specific mechs and how they're... Actually, no. I'm working on those, but I should probably more work on different maps and strategies on those maps. We'll probably do that next. I don't know. Maybe you guys can comment and steer me in a direction that you want me to start making videos. With that, hopefully you guys become less potato. I know I'm still a potato, but hopefully this helps you. Alright. See ya.